An API, an application programming interface. These are sort of like what I call cross-indexing codes of information, if you will, the difference between trinary and binary, right? Artificial light, real light, or eternal light, which is eternal unconditional love. So when I think of simulations, when we refer to simulations, SIM cards, a SIM card like on a phone, a simulation is the difference in speed. But another way that I translate this, which may be a little bit different, but it's still nevertheless associated to codes, color codes, what we experience on a holographic projector screen, which is, the mirror, what we see in the mirror. And torque speed differentials and learning curves. How fast are we learning what's in our mirror so that our mirror has a future, right? And so when I'm thinking of programming like an interface, I'm reminded by, for example, my own experiences of when I was raised as a small child, and you're not feeling well, you go to a doctor, a DOC, a doctor. Okay, Ox, D, and then you have a PhD, MD, med doctors, PhDs, pH. Now we're into pH, electrical potential hydrogen. Right? So all of this relates to coding, which relates to mathematical codes that are programmed as an interface and will get stored in memory in a simple calculator of memory plus, memory minus. So I covered that already as a child, what you choose to put in memory, what you choose not to put in memory, or what you choose to delete. So now I realize as a child, what has the greatest value? Love has the greatest value. So you can cut to the chase and say, well, if I'm learning through what love is the most powerful teacher. Yes, of course. Because if nothing else, you're going to realize that if you are what love is, then love does no harm. That means you're not doing any harm to yourself. That's basic logic. Okay, that's a powerful magnet, which is a powerful mirror. Okay, so that means that you're in love with your mirror. Okay, so now you can get into the visual information side of things in a holographic simulation, if you will, that's running on artificial intelligence, which is finite light. Okay, I call it dead zones or dead pools or dead water worlds, or if you will, universe killers, or fake worlds. They're not real. It's an illusion because it's not what love is. Because you are what love is, so you know what's real, which means you know what the truth is, which means you know what love is. Because you're experiencing what love is, because love is the absence of fear, of experiencing what the truth is, because you know that love is the truth, because love is what's real, so therefore I'm not in fear of expressing or communicating what I've experienced by what I've learned in my mirror as a result of the experience. And the experience can be measured in frequency and vibration through the visual light spectrum of what we experienced visually as codes. So I was thinking about, for example, last night, just from childhood, all the things that had appeared. In other words, your consciousness is running the codes. Now you're experiencing what the codes mean, color codes mean visually in your mirror. So, for example, when I was growing up as a child, my mother purchased a lot of different things from, say, a store. Like I grew up with corduroys, Levi's, Penny's t-shirt. Most of the things that I wore as apparel were not synthetic. They came directly from nature. Okay. So, for example, I was wearing white, 100% cotton socks. Why cotton? Because they breathe better. Numero uno. Then that ties directly to my uncle, whose name was Wallace B. Carruthers. Wallace B. Carruthers worked for DuPont. You can tie the DuPont family into the Illuminati families, negative polarity bloodlines, if you will, right? And why they started coming out with during that particular time in the late 1950s, not that they hadn't been around before that, but what you see is that they're now being generated through their corporations at a greater rate of speed, which means they want more beings wearing synthetics versus natural material, right? Cotton, for example, or skinned animals, or leaves, like if you go down to visit the Amazonian tribes, what they wear. including other tribes or other beings that you see on the visible light spectrum that don't wear anything at all. As a matter of fact, I'll share this experience that I had. I may have mentioned this before. When I was living in a treehouse on the island of Kauai, Kauai, and I was living in a treehouse, and I grew up because, you know, the first, you came out of your mother's womb butt-ass naked, right? So I sort of already knew this as a child that, you know, when you leave here, even though you know that you're not alone, you know, I came in here butt-ass naked, so you know you're going to leave here with whatever you acquired here. In other words, you can't take everything with you, all the material stuff. You can't take your automobile with you, right? You can't take your bed with you. You can't take a jackhammer with you, right? A weed eater, right? Your Learjet with you. You can't take that with you. In spirit. Spirit isn't going to be attached to an airplane, taking that airplane and spirit through the light. Spirit in the matter worlds, spiritual worlds, spirit in the light. Okay, so you can imagine what this was like as a child experiencing these things and putting together the world that you know that you live in, or what I call the environment that you're cast in. Like casting characters, you know, what do you want to play? What's your character map? Character mapping, mapping the terrain, mapping the universe, mapping the codes, the observer, observing the observed, measuring the terrain as to how much loss and gain of electrons and photons and photosynthesis, which are all the connections of what we're learning through each other, what best serves our future. So when you're already doing that, you can already see the future by observing how people are behaving towards themselves in their own mirror, which means it doesn't serve their magnetic speed, the speed at which they're learning in their own mirror, so their mirror doesn't go Black Mirror, right? They even made a movie, a series about Black Mirror, right, that I covered that. So it really is about how we're learning through each other, right, by what it is others have learned that we learn through them, what best serves us, so that our children have a future, so that a star system has a future, so that a galaxy has a future, so that a universe has a future. So when you already know that love is what grows a flower, and you're already there because that's what you are, now you have to sort through the consciousness field of why you're experiencing something is less than what that is in consciousness. Right? So you realize, well, I'm not going to impose my will on somebody else, but I'm experiencing the choices that they make and the use of their energy that doesn't best serve them. So this is where I had a sort of a challenge in navigating my way through the consciousness field and realizing that there's your will, your free will, and there's my free will, but you're using your free will in which I'm going to experience the feedback from what you do that comes back to me, which is toxifying or contaminating the water that I'm drinking. So now I become aware that you're committing a crime. Now I'm experiencing the crime. That gets recorded in my record. So now I know who committed the crime. So now you're into energy debts. Now you're into the basic calculator. Right? All there is energy. Right? So when you're integrated, it means that you're one, which is a monopole. So now you're back to monatomic, right? Monatomic gold. And so now you begin to realize why we have the relationships that we have with each other. So if we're having relationships that are based on peace, because we honor the law of one, then what happens? We can build thriving relationships with each other. So now we're back into the speed of learning with our magnets, right? Yeah, how fast are we spinning what it is we're aware of in our mirror to get rid of those things that don't serve us? It's just like getting rid of this, getting rid of that, getting rid of this, getting rid of that. Because attachments are really what we hold in memory that we realize or what we learn from that we recorded in the memory we want to remove out of memory. So that's the circulation library of the codes of what's held in memory, which represents our record here or our life book here. Right? And no different than if you go into a school, right, and you have a, what do they call it, a grade. They give you a grade like grade A beef, grade A milk, everything is coded with letters as numbers, as energy. This is all the programming, right? So I realized, for example, when you go to a corporate store, interplanetary corporation, and you realize when you break it down and look at the crystalline structure, if you will, between something that has been manufactured in the lab using binary AI codes, in the way that light hits it, is not going to be the same as if it comes from a goddess that is producing it through biomagnetic molten voltage. Right? So that means that experiencing the difference between what they put in their stores that you pay money for and what it is you put into your body that comes from her. As example, ammonium chloride, a volcanic sublimate. Okay, so you can buy ammonium chloride directly from a laboratory, you know, or any chemist supply store, but it's not the same as if you get it directly from a molten volcano. So the crystalline structure and the way that it hits it, crystal, like little quartz crystals on the beach, crystal radio sets, right? And so it's sort of unique and in some ways funny, but in other ways painfully sad in a way. But I try and remember why we're here, which is to restore the balance, restore peace, restore love as a law, if you will, and end the wars. I've actually known that since early childhood, is to end the wars once and for all time. Okay, so if you want to translate that as an evolution of higher consciousness, it means that the universe is learning at a higher rate of speed in order to not experience itself being out of balance anymore as a result of what's here that is causing it, because now we're in a cause and effect, which is impact. The impact of what we experience as a result of the others that do what it is that they do, that do not represent a universe that is accelerating at a higher rate of speed to learn through what love is in order to experience balance within its own water worlds. So you could sort of translate that as a universe that just started out being a universe. Now it's self-aware of itself. So now it realizes it's not alone. So now it's learning through others what they are, that it's learning through what it is. So this would be like your neurons communicating with each other, right? Which way are you going? Remember the old saying, you got a one-track mind? 45 RPM, 33 RPM. Remember the 4-track tapes, 8-track tapes? Torsionville movie players. So it's no different than what we see on the visible light spectrum. What was once held in memory is always changing. So now you can measure the changes that are taking place. So what I began to realize is that things were being replaced by what's getting recorded in memory between one event horizon to the next event horizon of more poisons, more poison, if you will, or things that are less beneficial for you, because now we're talking about energy wars to break down, or what we call decay, electromagnetic radiation decay. So now your shield is breaking down, and what happens when your shield breaks down? All your codes break down. That means you're not firing at a higher rate of speed. And what happens to your software? So if you want to think of this through simulations or assimilation, you go from being an independent unit of consciousness, a unit of energy that is a free spirit, that is experiencing what love is. Now it's experiencing something that it isn't what love is as a result of what it is rather than what you are, which is a difference in mirrors, right? And so I realized that assimilation is simply you don't remember what you once were as an original musician, right? Music, musical notes, scales, musical scales, harmonic ratios, the speed at which you're learning, 55 harmonic, black hole, get it up, get it up, get it up. You want to get out of the hole, you want to get out of the black hole, right? Get out of the hole, get out of the hole, which means you want to get out of debt. Now we're back to energy debts. Now we're back to energy, which is consciousness, right? So you want to maintain your balance going in the positive direction, right? So we all have a future. So that, believe it or not, is based on the learning speed by being connected with each other and who we're learning through, the direction that we're all going through together, walking our way home. Home is heaven. Born out of heaven, born out of what love is. It starts with love. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Have a beautiful day, all of you. I love you all.